All right, this is a pretty exciting service, the API gateway. Why is it exciting? It's basically a proxy, and this is something that I can get from 100 different vendors. Service or server or application that acts as a proxy in between my clients and my back-end services. So if I wanted to normalize APIs across a different set of services, let's say that I have a monolithic application running in EC2, I have my S3, I have my Lambda, and each one of those services talk a different API or protocol, I can normalize the access of those back-end services with an API gateway, generically, not just with AWS's API gateway, but with any API gateway. A IoT client can talk a consistent set of APIs to the API gateway and make a call to a service running on EC2 using those REST APIs. The same for a mobile device. Basic concept in application development, computer science. We have networking, infrastructure, storage. It's a proxy. What makes the AWS service unique and interesting is that it's geared towards and leverages the entire scale of the AWS infrastructure. Obviously, there's going to be tight integration between the API gateway and native AWS services to make application development and management easier. But you also get the scale of the AWS endpoints. So I can put API gateway caches and extensions and POP locations, point of presence, whereas wherever AWS has regional presence or POPs in general. So I get the scale of AWS. Why is that important? If I have an IoT device in Chicago, I can create an endpoint regionally here, and I think the closest one is probably in Ohio, or if there's a POP closer, and have that endpoint talk to that IoT device there, so I have lower latency. If I have a worldwide mobile device network, I can use all of the AWS regions across the world and have those endpoints and basically have better performing applications. The other piece is that it's integrated into the AWS control plane, so I get all the power of the AMI and identity and services and billing and etc. It is a addictive service. With that said, it is also a dangerous service. The free level gives you 1 million free calls to the API gateway. That sounds like a lot, but I learned this lesson the hard way. We outsource DNS, very similar type of publicly available service. You know how many times a spam email server requests a DNS entry for your mail server? Well, I found out the hard way. Literally millions of times a month, even for a relatively inactive mail domain. And while that allowance sounds great, what will happen, what can happen, is if this is exposed, if your API is exposed globally, you can have a malicious actor constantly hitting that API gateway and running up your AWS bill. You can basically get a denial of service to your API gateway. And there's other challenges. And there are mitigations to that. You can put a TLS certificate requirement on the devices and the clients and only accept those connections, which will eliminate this risk altogether. But you have to be really smart when you think about putting anything on the public internet. I'm excited about this one. This is a great service. I'm glad I reviewed what was special about AWS's API gateway. If you have questions, DMs are open on Twitter at CTO Advisor. You want to learn more about the CTO Advisor, follow us on the web, thectoadvisor.com.